You want to know how much this guy got paid for playing this guy? Or who out of all these actors got paid the most to star in Iron Man? The answer might just surprise you. Stay tuned. Iron Man, the movie that launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was not a guaranteed hit, and at the time was a great risk for the studio. The film was Marvel Studios' first fully financed film, with other Marvel-based superhero films being produced by studios like Fox or Sony. Paramount Pictures agreed to distribute the film, whose production budget was a mere $140 million. And I mean that only in contrast to today's superhero flick budgets. In comparison, released 10 years later, Infinity War ran a budget of $340 million. So, there's that. Taking a shot in the dark really paid off for the Tin Man, as it raked in $98.6 million opening weekend. Over the course of its theatrical run, it managed to gross $319 million in the US and Canada, plus $266.8 million in other territories, totaling over $585 million worldwide. With around $445 million in profits, this was a monumental success, setting the stage for future Marvel films. But that's just box office. Let's talk extras. The film made Iron Man a household name, and with it, made fans want to get further into the action. Iron Man had a great post-box office run with over $183 million in DVD sales, over $14 million in Blu-ray sales, and who knows how much in streaming numbers are. Those are quite hard to come by, but it's safe to assume that they generated huge numbers there too. The film also benefited greatly from merchandise sales of action figures, apparel, games, and collectibles, which generated over $1 billion in revenue, further solidifying the film's financial impact. So what did the actors take from all this? Let's start with the big man, Tony Stark, Iron Man himself, played by Robert Downey Jr. Coming off his last film, Charlie Bartlett, which was a box office flop with a lowly budget of $12 million and bringing in only $5.2 million at the box office, it was fair to say Robert was not in huge demand or a big drawing at the time. And most of the studio didn't stand behind his casting. Names like Timothy Olyphant and Sam Rockwell, who later would play the role of Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2, were frontrunners to play Tony Stark in the film. It was Jon Favreau who met with Downey and was set to direct the film, who insisted having him as the lead. It was said that this led to him agreeing to a pay cut, which may or may not actually be true, but he received a salary of just $500,000 for his role as Tony Stark. Rumors also state that most MCU stars are offered royalties on later streams of their films, but more importantly, they receive royalties off of merchandise that represents their likeness of the film. These merchandise splits are said to range between 1 to 8%, but let's just say Robert got the absolute worst split at 1%. With the billion in merch sales, that would still net him an additional $10 million, bringing his Iron Man revenue on the low end easily over $10.5 million. It might not be enough for the Avengers Tower, but it could get you a pretty cool spot near the city. Gwyneth Paltrow, who played Pepper Potts, was just featured in Two Lovers alongside Joaquin Phoenix, a movie with a $9.8 million budget that grossed $16.8 million worldwide. And before that, she was featured in The Good Night, a $15 million budget film that grossed just over $500,000 at the box office. While we don't know the exact information that Paltrow was paid for these films, we can assume not so much given the budgets weren't too crazy to begin with. But all that aside, it is reported that Paltrow made approximately $500,000 for a role as Tony Stark's love interest in Iron Man, which is about the same amount one of her prior films, The Good Night, grossed at the box office, thankfully putting that film's earnings to bed. Jeff Bridges, who portrayed Obadiah Stane, the villain of the film, his prior film was actually a pretty high-profile voice acting job. He voiced the character Big Z in the $100 million budgeted animated film Surf's Up. Surf's Up went on to snatch $150 million at the box office and even scored a sequel, which Bridges was not a part of because the cast was some reason replaced by WWE superstars? I have no idea who would have came up with that decision.
The project was initiated by World Wrestling Entertainment WWE, which inquired with Sony for a possible project that would help expand their brand and reach a new generation of audiences. According to you, WWE thought that Surf's Up had a really fun vibe. It's really lighthearted. It's got a lot of goofy, cartoony fun. He also remarked that the film is about surfing. It's about sports. So we thought it was a natural fit. All character designs had to be approved by WWE.
With a recognizable face and a solid fan base, Bridges was reported to make somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million for his role in the superhero flick, which isn't too shabby for the dude. Before we get into this next one, if you like the content that you've seen here today so far, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Also, tap the like button to help the algorithm recommend us to other people who may like this. Okay, let's get into the next one. Last but certainly not least, we have Terrence Howard. Howard played Colonel James Rhodes, also known as Tony Stark's best friend, or War Machine. Howard's previous 2 films paint a very confusing picture to his overall movie choice and/or his star power. His previous film, The Perfect Holiday, had a budget of $20 million and brought in only $5.8 million at the box office. The film before that, Awake, brought in $32.7 million against an $8.6 million budget. Howard's box office power was unpredictable to say the least. Even with this, he secured a whopping $3.5 million for his role in Iron Man, making him the highest paid actor in the film by far, well, at least on the front end. All this without even getting to suit up in the War Machine suit.
Damn. Next time, baby.
What a shame. Ultimately, the studio and Howard parted ways before the sequel due to pay disputes, with Howard stating they wanted to give him just $1 million for the second film instead of the $8 million he was originally promised. This caused his character to be replaced by actor Don Cheadle. Listen here to Howard's account of the events from the Joe Rogan podcast.
I was doing Iron Man.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, that gets taken away. We did a 3-picture deal with Marvel. A 3-picture deal. $4.5 million for the first one, $7.5 to $8 million for the second one, $12 million for the third. We signed it. And they said, yeah, we want Terrence, but we want to come back for $1 million instead of the $8 million that we had agreed to. Calling Robert, and he's doing Sherlock Holmes, I called him 27 times. And I'm like, and leave a message. I'm calling his assistant. I'm like, I need the help I gave you. I didn't hear from him until 3 years later. I bumped into him at Brian Grazier's wedding.
Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury also appeared as a cameo in the film, but this was more of a test run to his eventual 9-movie deal with Marvel, so the details on his pay rate for this aren't publicly known at the moment. So, to summarize, Iron Man was filmed with a production budget of $140 million. It opened to a $98.6 million weekend with $585 million worldwide gross. It pulled in a staggering $1 billion in merchandise. The main actors, Robert Downey Jr., received $500,000 plus 1 to 8% of merchandise, which at 1% would be another $10 million, and an unknown royalty backend. Gwyneth Paltrow scored $500,000. Jeff Bridges earned himself between $500,000 and $1 million, and Terrence Howard took the title of highest paid actor for the film at $3.5 million. But if you account for Downey's back end and merch money, he may have got the highest total payout from the movie's full life, probably still making a few coins every quarter. Clearly, Iron Man was not just a film, it was a financial phenomenon that paved the way for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thank you for joining me today. I haven't really thought of a name for this segment yet. I'm kicking around ideas, maybe movie money, film financials, big screen budgets. I don't know. If you like this video, be sure to do the thing that people always ask. Comment, like, subscribe. Let me know what other projects you'd like me to run the numbers on. And let me know what you think I should call this segment. Until next time, follow the money.